history to beat four clubs with 50 regular season wins in the playoffs to win the title.
16 seconds ahead to Clyde. Clyde in the right court. Olajuwon for three. Yes!
It's only fitting.
What a winner!
The Houston Rockets have won their second consecutive NBA championship. They have swept the Orlando Magic.
How sweet it is, Jimmy. What you would have believed when we went into Salt Lake City that we could do this again.
Just an incredible run in the playoffs for the Houston Rockets. We might go for another one. Yeah. Clyde the Glide finally gets the ring.
He's got it. He's got his ring.
No one has ever done what this team's done. Come from the 6th seed, down in series, and we had non-believers all along the way. I have one thing to say to those non-believers. Don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion.
The New Channel Sports Podcast presents We Talk. On this edition of We Talk, we are going to dive into the 94-95 Houston Rockets. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to us on Instagram, please don't hesitate to give us a follow. The 94-95 Houston Rockets, they had, if not the greatest run, one of the greatest runs in NBA history on their way to a championship. They will go on to defeat the Utah Jazz, the Phoenix Suns, the San Antonio Spurs, and in the finals, they will sweep the Orlando Magic. One of the greatest runs I've ever seen growing up. Of course, I'm in Houston, so I'm a Rockets fan. I'm a diehard Rockets fan. I was a fan of that team with Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, Sam Cassell, Mario Elie, Robert Horry. I mean, what they were able to do in that 94-95 run is really not talked about enough. They beat a team that was led by Karl Malone and John Stockton. Then they went on to beat a team that was led by Charles Barkley and Kevin Johnson. Then they beat the Admiral, with who was David Robinson, and Hakeem Olajuwon gave him the business in that series. He was declared MVP in that series, and Olajuwon was like, "Okay, you think you're the MVP?" And he went out there and absolutely demolished David Robinson and made him look silly. I've never seen a professional athlete make somebody who was as talented and as good as David Robinson look so small, so minuscule. I mean, he gave him the business in that series. And then they will go on to face Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway, and they would sweep them in the finals. I mean, I don't think this run that the Houston Rockets went on in 94-95 is talked about enough. Hakeem Olajuwon just displayed all of his talents in that run, and that team was like a well-oiled machine, not necessarily going in because they were the 6th seed. They're the lowest seed ever to win a NBA title. Utah had won 60 games, I believe. Phoenix won 59 games. I think San Antonio also won 60 games, but the amount of games that all those teams won, the Rockets were the only team in NBA history to win a title against teams with that accumulative win total. So what they were able to do in 94-95 was damn impressive.
Yeah, man, two things. Number one, there'll never be a 6 seed to winning championship again unless injuries are involved, considering just the top heaviness that the NBA has always had. So anybody who says this era is top heavy, stop it. The NBA's always been top heavy. So we'll never see that again unless a team has a ridiculous amount of injuries, i.e. the Lakers, right? With LeBron James and Anthony Davis, something like that, where a team has a lot of injuries. But that really wasn't the case with the Rockets. It was more they started off the season not great, but they turned it on late. And then the second thing, and you alluded to this, so the Rockets are one of the very few teams in NBA history, I think there are only 5 of them, who would beat a team along the way multiple teams that won 60-plus games. So in the first round, they played the Jazz. The Jazz won 60 games that season. Then they played, you mentioned the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals. They won 62 games that season. But that was even just it, though. The Suns that they played, the Suns won 59 games, so one win away from having 60. And then they played the Magic in the finals, and they won 57 games. That's ridiculous. Every team they faced in the playoffs won over 55 games. That's ridiculous. And then on top of that, they never had home court advantage throughout the playoffs. It will never happen again unless there are injuries. And when you think about it, the Rockets, like I mentioned, didn't have injuries. They just were a middling team. They figured it out. The big trade to get Charles Barkley. They
eventually got Charles Barkley.
Eventually, but not that season. They got Clyde Drexler that season, uniting the Phi, Slamma, Jamma. And the dopest part about that championship is everybody who lives in Houston knows about Phi, Slamma, Jamma. As great as they were, they did not win a championship. And for Hakeem and Clyde to get that for Houston in the NBA and in the manner that they did it, that was dope. And unfortunately, I watched absolutely none of it. Well, I watched it, but I wasn't coherent. I didn't know.
Well, with that series, I was really, really into it. And what made it so dope is that my family was into it as well. Like, my mom doesn't watch sports a lot, but she was into the Rockets. When they won a championship in 93, 94, everybody was into it. My brother, who is not big on sports unless it's MMA or boxing, he was into it. So there are a couple of things during that run that I remember vividly. And when Mario Elie hit that corner three in Game 7 against the Phoenix Suns and gave, I think his name was Klein, the kiss of death, I will never, ever forget that in my life. Once Mario Elie hit that shot, I was in the run room and my dad was in the living room. And once Mario Elie hit that shot and it went straight in, I ran to like the hallway. My dad was there and I jumped into his arms. That is the most emotional embrace that we've ever had in our lives. And it was because of Mario Elie and the Houston Rockets. And I will never ever forget that. I mean, that run was spectacular. It was like a roller coaster ride because the Rockets were actually down in that series against the Phoenix Suns, and they were able to claw their way all the way back. They were down against Utah as well, and they clawed the way back. It was only a 5-game series against the Utah Jazz, but they climbed back in that one.
That game that you're mentioning with the Utah Jazz, that's where Clyde Drexler came through. Drexler came through in games 4 and 5 of that series, particularly game 5. Clyde Drexler was the man in that. Because, I mean, let's be real. Houston sports, we don't have much to cheer about. So I've watched that entire series as an adult. I watched every game of the playoffs where the Rockets played in 95. Every single game, I've watched it. And Clyde Drexler does not get enough kudos for what he did versus the Utah Jazz. Because that team right there, they could have won that season. It was an amazing run. We'll never see anything like it again. Never.
You got to understand that the teams that they beat, you look at the Utah Jazz, they eventually would go to a finals. They lose to Michael Jordan. The Charles Barkley-led Phoenix Suns, they would eventually lose in the finals to Michael Jordan.
Well, they did already. They already lost.
Well, they did already. They already lost. Right. Yeah. But they had already went to the finals, and the Utah Jazz were on their way to going to a finals. But these were elite teams. These were teams, and look at the star power. There will never be another run where you beat the star power on each of those teams going to a championship. It will just never happen. Ever happen.
Yeah.
That run was magical. When you talk about, you had your dad in one room, you in one room, and to have our parents who are Nigerian, who at times they're not that into sports, right? But
right.
We're in Houston, and you have a Nigerian player, and it just so happens to be Hakeem, and those are memorable moments. I didn't watch that series. I was Chris, just like you. I was young, man, too young to even comprehend what was going on in that situation. But it's pretty amazing. Just to put it in today's terms, let's just talk about what it's like, to have a team in a similar situation go through that. That's like, I don't know, who's the 6th seed right now? In the West, you've got the Dallas Mavericks. That's like the Dallas Mavericks beating the LA Lakers, LA Clippers, the Phoenix Suns. Who else am I missing? Denver Nuggets. You got
it right. Those first you mentioned it. Lakers, Clippers, Suns, and then going to beat the Nets.
And then beating the Nets on top of that, right? And then And then they don't have the star power that the Houston Rockets did at that point in time. Ain't no Hakeem Olajuwon. Yeah, we got Luka, but ain't no Hakeem Hall of Famer, Olajuwon on the team. Ain't no Clyde Drexler on that team, So it was pretty amazing. And just to see that, okay, so here's a couple of stats, right? So you've got 71 championships so far. You've got 52 teams who have won, who are the first seed. You've got 10 teams who have won the championship as the second. 7 teams as the third, only 1 team as the fourth, and you've got the Houston Rockets as a 6th seed, not having home court advantage. I mean, that's just amazing. And then it was really I forget the name of the player that the Rockets traded to get Clyde.
They traded Otis Thorpe. Otis Thorpe was a key cog in their championship run beforehand. He was a power forward, Otis Thorpe, but they traded him to get Clyde Drexler. Yes.
Right. So after that, the Rockets were only a 500 team with Clyde, so they were doing even worse than what they were before they traded for him. So that was a really controversial move. But to see all the superstars that the Houston Rockets ran through, being down 3-1 against the Suns, that was huge. To come back and win in Game 7, I mean that was huge right there. And then against the Magic, that Game 1 that they won in overtime, right after Nick Anderson misses 2 free throws, he gets his own rebound back, misses 2 more, and then for them to come back and win Game 1 in overtime, I mean, that was a huge thing as well. I mean, that was a magical run. Robert Horry, I forget he was with that team at that time, man. Yo, this dude's
shame on
clutch.
You.
Huh?
Shame on you.
Bruh.
Shame on you.
Look. I was a baby, okay? Calm, relax. All right? I was like 7 years old, man. But Robert Horry, man, this dude's been clutching the finals for a very long time, man. When you talk about he's been doing it with the Rockets, he did it with the Lakers, he did it with the Spurs. I mean, yo, there's a reason why Robert Horry's got them championships, man. I mean, that's crazy.
And on top of that, he was the one who hit the big shot against the Spurs. So that he sent us to the finals, essentially. And I think that the dopest part about this run is really Tom Janovich at the end when the championship was won. He said, I have one thing to say to the non-believers. Don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion. And everybody says that. It is the greatest quote after a win. Find a better quote after somebody wins a championship than that. I don't think you will. That was dope.
Charles Barkley described the Houston Rockets as cockroaches after they came back and won because they said they just won't die. They just will not die. We can actually do another We Talk on that Orlando Magic team as well. That consisted of Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway. If Nick Anderson hits one of those shots, I'm not saying they win the series, but it just it gives them more momentum going into those next games. Because after he missed those 4 free throws, that was pretty much it. The Rockets knew, we're going to win this series. Yeah. They're not ready for this. So I think that if he would have hit one of those shots, it might have changed NBA history, actually.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you 100%.
Right.
I think the Rockets still would have won. But the confidence, or a team that the confidence was shaken, and really juxtaposes with the series with the Miami Heat and Oklahoma City Thunder. The Oklahoma City Thunder won Game 1, and then they lost 4 straight. After Game 3, it wasn't Game 2. Game 2 was close to Heat 1. But after Game 3 of that series, you could tell that the Thunder lost confidence, and you saw the same look in the eyes that you saw if you go back and watch Game 1 of the '95 Finals with the Magic walking off the court.
I know we're talking about the Houston Rockets and their run, but those are probably the 2 greatest what-if stories for teams in NBA history. You talk about the Orlando Magic, and you talk about the OKC Thunder, as you just mentioned, Chris, with Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook. But yeah, the run the Rockets had was a great run.
And for the Rockets fans, I want to say this. After that championship run, we've just had what-ifs. What if Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming don't get injured when they got Ron Artest and took the Lakers to Game 7? What if Chris Paul didn't get hurt in Game 5 and the Rockets have won? So the Rockets, that miracle series, is almost like they sucked all the luck and good fortune out of the can, bro, because there's no more left.
Well, I mean, you have a Hall of Famer in Hakeem. Once you have that in the building on your team, I mean, you've got that tremendously in your favor, and they're big at that. So I guess you're right, Chris. I mean, I can really see your point, with them possibly sucking all of the other good fortune and, hogging up all of the other rabbit claws and whatever other good luck charms that are out there. I know another big what if is, hey, what if MJ and the Bulls, was still, what if MJ didn't leave? What would that situation look like? Would that have been, Rockets and Bulls, and is that a situation where the Rockets still win? Is that a situation where now we're talking about, well, MJ is not 6-0, in the finals and stuff like that, right?
That's a good point.
That's another great.
But why you gotta bring that up, man? We're talking about the 94-95 Rockets. Okay?
I get you.
The Magic knocked out MJ, so I don't want to hear that. The Magic knocked him out.
Hey, let's see if MJ
that wasn't real MJ though. That wasn't 23 MJ. That was 45 MJ.
I don't care.
That they
Was it
knocked out.
Michael Jordan on the court with a jersey on? Then it's a real MJ.
I don't know.
I'm tired of people saying that, but it wasn't really MJ. Nah, he was really on the court. It wasn't an alien, bro. It wasn't an alien, right? It's not this whole fake Gucci man thing everybody's talking about. Like he said he a clone. No, that was MJ. Don't do me, bro.
Hey,
no, stop.
It was still MJ, but guess what? You turned on that magic, man, once you wore that 23 again. But anyway, you're right. You're right. We talking about the Rockets, but that would have been another great matchup right there if that would have happened.
Yeah, well, I just have to say that was the greatest run in NBA history to me. To be a 6th seed and beat the caliber of teams they beat with the star power and the number of wins they had, it was the greatest run in NBA history in my book. This has been We Talk. We discussed the 94-95 Houston Rockets. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. If you're watching us on Instagram, please give us a follow as well. This was the one and only Onyenyi. I was joined by Big Low and the phenomenal one, Chris. We are out until the next We Talk.